So remind me, are you originally from Milwaukee? I can't remember.
Yeah, well, pretty much. I was born in Madison, but my parents moved to Milwaukee when I was about 6 years old, or the
Mm,
Milwaukee area. We were in Wauwatosa at the
okay,
time.
cool. Do you remember like the
Yeah.
age you were when you first like joined or started your first band?
Um, I was 12, I think. I think I was 12. Um, I mean that was probably the first like real band where we actually ended up playing a couple shows, but prior to that, I had been uh, sort of attempting to start a band and like you know trying to play with other kids in their basement and stuff like that. But I'm not sure if those ones count because we never like came up with a name or we never played any shows. But there was several attempts before that too.
Okay. Wow. That's cool though. I mean, I don't think like a lot of 12-year-olds would have the wherewithal to start a band or start playing like that. Do
Yeah,
you
it was like sort of a obsession, definitely around that time. It was like sort of all I was thinking about and like wanting to do in seventh grade, seventh and eighth grade.
Yeah, were there like any like people you looked up to where you're like, I want to be writing music like that person or play guitar like that person?
Oh, I don't know. Eh, yeah, there was like a couple, there was a few moments like that, I guess. This was a little earlier, but in like sixth grade, there was there was one of the teachers uh was was played guitar and like was in a band when he was younger, and he was kind of he somehow allowed the school to let him do like an after school club for people who wanted to like play guitar or play play in the rock band or whatever. And it didn't last very long, but there was like one or two meetings of it. And I remember he like brought his son's band in, who they were like in high school or something. They're probably like 16, and they played "Say It So" by Weezer, um, in like in front of everybody. And I remember being like whoa, like I want to be like that.
Yeah, so it was like a Weezer song plus the fact that
Yeah,
these kids were playing it and you're like, I can do that, kind of like a healthy competition sort of thing.
so yeah, sort of. Yeah, it was just like I mean, when if I was in sixth grade, I think I had seen like maybe a concert before. My dad took me to see Paul Simon at Summerfest when I was like 8 or 9 because I saw him on the Muppet Show because I had the old VHSs, and I wanted my dad said he was coming to Summerfest, and so I wanted to see him. Um, it's weird. This is like sort of going off on a tangent, but like it's just funny that Brian Wilson was opening that show, and I didn't know who he was, and I was just
Mm.
kind of like, come on, like get to the guy that I saw on the Muppet Show, and he's like playing for a really long time, and I was like tired of it. But I wish
Yeah.
I would have appreciated it a lot more now if I wish I would have paid attention to it.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean 2020 hindsight, right?
yeah. But anyways, yeah. So I don't know if I'd really seen any other or many concerts up until that point. So it was just like the energy of like having these people like you know drums and bass and guitar just like right in front of you. Like they weren't even on a stage. We are just in the same room as them. It was like in the band room or whatever, and it just sounded so powerful. I remember, and it just it deeply affected me, which is weird because I actually I really love Weezer now. At least the first two records and like some other stuff. But uh, yeah, I feel like a lot of people they were such a huge influence on them around that age, and And I didn't really actually like get into them until like I didn't really like go back and like give them a chance until I was like 19 or something, which is really weird. So it wasn't even that it was a Weezer song, really. It was just that it was like these older kids just like rocking out really
Mm-hmm.
hard in front of me. It was a very transformative experience.
Yeah. Yeah, I bet. I never had that in high school or middle school or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, it sets you on a path, lifelong musician. Um, you know, do you remember like that first song that you wrote? And do you remember like if it was lyrics that came first, or was it more like you're noodling around on guitar? How did that happen?
That's a good question. Uh, I mean, yeah, I remember my band when I was 12. I guess we had, we would do like a lot of like Green Day covers and stuff, and but then I did start writing a couple songs. I think the first couple songs might have just been like more like democratic uh like collaborations of just stemming from jamming or something. And yeah, Sam Reitman was in this band too. Um, who he played in Midnight Reruns and plays with me for my solo stuff sometimes too. Um, uh, but yeah, I do remember one specific song that if it wasn't the first song I wrote, it was like one of the first when I was around that age. And yeah, I remember like I don't really remember like what it was about or what the rest of the lyrics were, but I remember it was called As the Crow Flies because I remember hearing someone say that just like that like saying and being like, "Ooh, that sounds like a cool song title." And like, before like prior to that, I think the idea of like how to write a song, like where to start from was very the idea of that was like very overwhelming, and I didn't really know how to do it. But I just remember that specific moment being like, oh, well, that could be a place to start from. I got a cool title, and then I can just like go from there.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I
I
still do
mean,
that sometimes.
right, like lyrical inspiration. It takes you somewhere real quick sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I guess, as a full-blown Madisonian again, you were born there. Do you feel like you're like fully integrated into the Madison music scene by now? Because for a while you were like a working musician in the Milwaukee scene, but do you feel like you're fully a Madison musician at this point?
I don't know. I mean, I sort of like I feel like the scene in Madison uh just in my little world is feels kind of small and just kind of like a lot of it's just like my friend group, and I know that doesn't necessarily represent reality. And there's a lot, I think there's probably a lot more going on here musically than just in my little bubble. So that makes me feel like I'm not necessarily like integrated into it in maybe the same way that I felt like I was in Milwaukee. But um I don't know. It's that's been kind of nice because it sort of my focus is like narrowed a little bit where um I don't know. I think maybe in Milwaukee I spent a lot of time really like a lot of time and energy really being like I need to like get in the scene or whatever. And that's like these days it's like that's like less important to me, and I spend more time just like recording stuff and writing songs and doing that side of it.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. Um, thinking about your style of music that you write as a solo artist, the Midwest is really full of guitar pop. So, who are some faves you grew up listening to? I mean, you mentioned Paul Simon, of course, but were there any like power pop artists that you kind of were drawn to during your formative listening years?
Uh, yeah, for sure. Well, I was my parents used to play uh Matthew Sweet's Girlfriend around the house a lot when I was a little kid. And so that is like some of my earliest musical memories um of just like being a small child and like being affected by music where I'm like, ooh, what is this? Like, why is it making me feel good? Like, why is it making me feel like this? Uh, and that's I feel like that's pretty. Most people would put that in the category of power pop. This is
Hmm.
firmly.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely.
so yeah, I mean, like, I feel like that has probably just that experience has probably somewhat shaped everything that I've like created since then, perhaps like musically, perhaps. Uh, but obviously, that's hard to say. Um, I
Yeah.
mean,
I
yeah, my
mean,
my parents like were really they had eclectic music taste when I was growing up, and a lot of it was like great pop music. Like I heard ABBA around the house a lot too, and I was born in '91, so I mean, my this was like probably one of the last years my parents like were keeping up with like new music, but they bought Nevermind, and I remember hearing that a lot, like as like a small child. Uh, I feel like I feel like that's maybe not by like it's a purist definition, but it's power pop in the sense of it's pop music and it's like, you know, uh like loud and
mhm.
hard
Yeah, I mean, you
or
think about
whatever.
Kurt Cobain's like inspiration, his biggest like inspiring band was the Vaselines, who are like
Definitely,
a
yeah,
pop band, you know. So I think
for
like
sure.
your sound is like a good cross section of that like Matthew Sweet Nirvana thing. You've got like some grungier moments and some super like anthemic moments. So it all like comes out and you label your sound as baggy on your Bandcamp page, which I thought was really funny. But it kind of speaks to that whole like kind of slacker rock vibe too, kind of like baggy skateboard kind of appeal, right?
Yeah, well, I was just thinking of more tags to put, but that sort of comes, I mean, that comes out of like a uh you know Sahan, of course, but we like we when we played in midwives together, we would that was just like sort of an inside joke, or we would just like yell baggy at each other because just like the we would like nerd out about music a lot, and we really liked a lot of that sort of Manchester like creation records, factory records, like sort of uh you know uh, like when like dance music was sort of colliding with guitar music in like late 80s England or whatever, and but we just thought like the idea of like the genre being called like baggy was like really funny, so we would just like yell that at each other in a British accent, and
Yes.
and it like it sort of like was a joke, but then it was also like we actually really liked the music, and so he would always uh he would always kind of uh like encourage me to like you should just like make a record that's just like fully that, and that's like sort of my output of as of late has kind of been that's kind of been the catalyst for it, because he actually sent me a drum loop. He's and that was my last record uh was kind of started because of that, and it definitely didn't turn out like fully like that, but just like it was nice to have that as like a jumping off point,
Mhm.
like inspiration to like kind of like set me on, get me on the road with it.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Um, I really also like on this record of yours, Try Not to Laugh is what it's called. I haven't mentioned that yet, which is a big deal. You just put this record out in December. I really like that you have like some fluffier instrumentation on the record, like violin and horns and stuff like that. And you've got like a whole pile of friends who contributed to various songs. It feels like just kind of a fun project. How did you go about assembling your crew for recording and kind of deciding what instrumentation would go where? Because it feels like a lot of moving parts, but it all comes together like really beautifully, sonically.
Thank you. Uh, I would say it's like just totally serendipitous. Uh, like my living situation currently is there's a studio in the basement, and that's where that this most current record's made, in the last one too. And uh so I mean, I'm just like going down there, just plugging away at it, at stuff, and people just happen to be around. It's like my roommates are both musicians, so either they just like come down, hear me working on something. They're like, oh, what if like I added this here, or I'll ask them like, what if you played some piano here, or whatever. And our house is also just like people are just coming in and out all the time. I feel like, and there's a lot of musicians around, and so if I'm just happen to be working on something, and somebody's there that either has an idea, like here's something, has an idea, I'll be like, you should just lay it down, or maybe you know um uh conversely, like I will I'll be like, well, I'm bad at piano or drums or whatever, so like, what, can you do this? Because it's not going to
Yeah.
be as great if I try.
Yeah. I mean, I noticed, of course you mentioned Sahan Jayasuriya, who
Hmm.
is a Milwaukee-based drummer. He contributed, and then members of Madison Band Disc, who I'm assuming are maybe like your housemates. Um,
Yeah, Isaac and Logan are, yeah.
hmm So yeah, you had quite the good cast of characters. So yeah, it's a full up record. Did you like you said you mentioned working on it kind of like piecemeal. How long exactly did it take you to put this full record together? Was it months or was it longer than that?
Um, let's see. Well, I finished I remember the last one, the one before it, I finished in like probably like spring of 2022, and then I think that there was a couple months where I didn't really write or record anything, and so then maybe like summer of 2022, I started like working on writing again, and yeah, then I started recording probably like around September, and let's see, and then I finished the record, I guess like. Yeah, I guess it'd probably be about a year, probably about exactly a year of just kind of, going down there a couple times a week for a few hours.
Yeah, it seems like a painstaking but super positive experience. So cool. I guess I would like to talk a little bit with you about the subjects or the themes on the record, Try Not to Laugh, because it felt very like posy dystopian. Like there was like this everything's burning down, but that's okay kind of vibe. Um, what were some of the
That makes
things
sense.
circling around your mind when you were writing the lyrics of these songs?
Yeah, I think I was thinking about, uh I mean, obviously, you know, it's like everyone we know everyone has gone into like existential despair about like climate change sort of stuff, and or whatever else, uh I think that there I was having like a weird uh couple months that I don't even necessarily completely feel like anymore, but I think I was having a weird couple months for a while where I was like really interested in like um what I guess uh like positive things that could come out of like collapse or like or like horrible things, like just seeing the potential for like human cooperation in like times uh of 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 turmoil or whatever, and like and just like seeing things that people building things or making things or having new ideas when things collapse, and like feeling like really like interested in that, or like um like the potential of new ideas that could come from that, uh which is like, yeah, obviously is not uh it's that's like a it's weird to try to put a positive spin on like something so horrifying, but yeah, I was in that headspace for a couple months for sure, and it probably was around the time that I was writing songs for this.
Yeah. Um, we are running low on time on this interview, unfortunately. So, um,
Hmm.
would you be able to like kind of do like the crucial things, like where can people find your record? I know it's on Bandcamp, but will you be doing a physical copy? And also, can you talk a little bit about your big show you've got planned at the Cactus Club coming up on February 3rd?
um yes, so physical copy you can get from my label is Smoking Room Records, out of Oakland, California. I think they've got like a big cartel or something. You just Google it, you can find a physical copy there. You can get it from me at my show at Cactus Club on February 3rd with Rust Belt, and it's also his EP release show too, which just came out recently, and it's great. And what was the other? There's one more thing I'm missing from your
I think
question.
Sean Trail is playing too, right?
Chantrail is playing too. Yes,
Yeah.
that's
Uh,
yep,
yeah, I think that was pretty much it, I guess. Like I know, yeah, you've got your record on Bandcamp, Big Cartel through Smoking Room, and then your big show coming up on the 3rd at Cactus.
yeah.
Do you have like tour dates or anything planned? What's the next thing after the 3rd?
Yeah, I'm I'm I think I'm gonna just start. I think I'm gonna tour later this year in the summer, but I think I'm gonna have a couple months where I'm just I got a bunch of new material, so um uh these last two albums are the first two in a trilogy, so I'm gonna hopefully dive into the third one and have that done before the at least all recorded by the summer.
Heck yeah. That's cool. Okay, got something to look forward to. Well, Graham,
Hmm.
thank you so much for talking to me today. Everyone can check out the record on Smoking Room Records. It's called Try Not to Laugh, and also catch Graham at the Cactus Club on February 3rd. Thanks.
Thank you.